Alright, welcome back everybody to Monster Hunter Wilds.
Slow and
World. Monster Hunter World. We are going to continue along our main quest line. Which means we're going to fight a Legiana. And then after that, we're going to go back into the rotten depths. The Bluebeal Grime depths. So,
we need to clear the way so we can fly down to the base of the Rotten Vale.
the Legiana is one of my more favorite monsters to fight in this game.
We don't do something about that monster.
Mind you, I played this game when it was still kind of in vanilla. You know, non-Iceborne DLC. So they probably added, well, they definitely added more monsters since I didn't play the Iceborne DLC. However, of the initial game up through its up through the end game release, I guess, before Iceborne, Legiana was one of my more favorite monsters to fight. Unfortunately, one of my least favorite monsters to fight also happened to be in the Coral Highlands. We'll be meeting it sooner rather than later. But that bastard, I really can't stand. I don't understand how the hell, like, for instance, you might say to yourself, I don't know why people talk so highly about some middle of the road, football, baseball, NBA, hockey star. It really didn't, like, when they start talking about Hall of Fame, like all-time greats, This guy had kind of okay stats. They weren't great stats, but they weren't terrible either. It's kind of like, whatever. Not really memorable is sort of what I'm trying to get at.
That's the monster
But
we ran into
nevertheless,
earlier.
that player makes the
Must
Hall
be
of
the big
Fame,
boss
and
around
like
these
you have
parts.
other players that don't make the Hall of Fame that are far more famous because, statistically speaking, their numbers aren't as impressive as, say, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like big name stars. There are a fair number of them for local teams. My local Pittsburgh area team. But like sort of what I'm trying to get at is, like you might have a name like well known like a Deion Sanders who can very much back up both the fact that they've got a big name, they're a big time star, and they had the statistics to back up their Hall of Fame induction. And then you might have like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a middle of the road player. I guess like you could probably say that about most offensive linemen, because when you play offensive line, you're not catching the ball, you're not, progressing the ball, but you as a group of 5 or 6 people, if you include a tight end, do some of the most important things, which is run blocking, pass blocking, making sure your quarterback stays safe, or making sure that you create a hole for your running back, wide receiver, whoever to run through. So they tend to be the unsung heroes. Now, obviously, if you look at their statistics, you go, oh, well, this guy was really good. No one ever seemed to get past him, on the end or on the inside or what have you. Or this guy was a really excellent center, but you generally don't hear about those guys quite like you do defensive players or, your skill offensive players. I don't know. I'm making sort of a long... I'm basically taking the long way around to basically say this monster constitutes as what they call an Elder Dragon, but I don't think he should be in the Elder Dragon category because he's kind of mid. He's not fun to fight. It's kind of a strange thing that doesn't really... I don't know. Doesn't feel like it should be all that. He should be all that important. What I'm trying to get at. Nice. He got the second mount there. So the big thing with Legiana is it is an ice-based monster. It is also a flying monster, so you can use what you call it, flash pods to knock it out of the sky, particularly with being a particularly big asshole. But the other factor is it has ice in it, so if you pick the wrong elemental armor or the wrong elemental attack weapon, you're gonna be kind of fucked. There's a good stun into knockout. That's what I like to see, when you get a knockdown and then you proceed to wail on him just hard enough that he also goes into the knocked out or worn out phase of his, here we are again, knocked him down again. Great. I don't know if he's prone to that or not. I don't really pay attention to that per se. That was unfortunate I didn't stick the landing there. So I can see Legiana's headed down. I want to show off an area. Sort of a back way to get up to Legiana, which is kind of got to be well known at this point, but this is probably one of the least, I shouldn't say the least traveled paths. It's definitely not. You see this little hole here? This is what I'm talking about. So this leads a little bit down, which leads you to some, I think it's a fishing area too. I'm not sure. And then you can use this to climb up the center. There's a pearl or two in here. And I believe there's some bones and maybe a place for us to mine as well. But this is sort of an alternate way to get up to the top of the mountain. Got a fair number of, like I said, it has a fair number of like little nice things like this honey here. That's the only unfortunate part, is it game tries to catch you or correct your jumps sometime. Jump! Bump. Made it. And then once you get up here, it's just sort of a I don't know what you call it. Not really, I wouldn't really want to call it a corkscrew, because it's not. You ever think about something you shouldn't think about because you're playing video games and you shouldn't really be thinking about random terrible things that can happen? Yeah, that was sort of what I was doing right there. Been sleeping kind of funny on my one side, so my got like kind of muscle pains in my chest. So you know what they always say, pain in your chest means you're having a heart attack. Of course, irritates the crap out of me because anyone can have a heart attack. A lot of that's genetic based too. You know, I don't know. 40's probably a little too young for having a heart attack or clogged arteries, particularly if you exercise and eat well. Just sort of, it wasn't really that thought that kind of distracted me. It was sort of, was thinking about how my dad spent like a couple weeks, not a couple weeks, maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks in the hospital, and just being like, God, I would probably die because of not in quote unquote boredom, but like I have trouble sitting still as it is, and to basically be in a bed where you have to recuperate your heart, so all you can do is lay there and sleep and maybe get up and take a slight walk if you're really feeling up to it. It's like, makes me cringe. The Legion is much like every other monster in this game, has a scream, which of course stuns you when they scream. What you want to do is you want to put earplugs in. But I'm not sure if this is like the previous Monster Hunter game that we played, where most of the monsters don't have a heavy roar, so you can get away with just medium earplugs in a lot of cases. There it is. Hi. Welcome back. You can be very useful to me if you don't do that. Fuck. I was gonna say, you can be very useful if you happen to point towards the other monster and flash him out of the sky. That would be kind of nice, but getting in his range is not nice. Dual-edged sword. So, every creature has its nest or its place where it prefers to rest, you know. It's usually secluded. Some monsters share the same resting spot. But this one is at the top of the, is at the top here. So we're going to go all the way to the top here. See the little bug there? Missed him my first go around. You're supposed to hit him to swing over that pit. And then I always, for whatever reason, I always go this direction. I always go this way, and then I always turn left. Don't ask why I always go left. I just do. You can easily go forward / right, jump down there, take you to the same spot. But for whatever reason, I always prefer to go this way. Weird force of habit. And right up here at the top, there'll be a couple mining spots, as well as where Legiona's resting area is. See, you keep going up though, like up, 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 up. They give you a mantle that's useful here. It basically circumvents that whole climb. But I don't really like the mantle other than it's useful in this stage in a couple places. Unfortunately, this can also be the most dangerous part of a hunt. Only because you're starting to get, I wouldn't say tired, you might start getting bored of the fight. And the monster might have a few hundred to a few thousand HP left, depending on what level you're at, how strong they are, etc. And they tend to go almost instantly berserk. So, like, one of the better things you can actually do is, rather than trying to kill the monster and carve it, is just to take the extra time, build the shock trap, build the pit trap, and just capture the monster. Cut out this whole last section of the monster fight. And it helps to eliminate a late hunt cart that could cost you materials, rewards, etc. So, also allegedly, capturing the monster, since it takes extra materials, actually yields you better results overall. However, I'm sort of a fan of the thought that, I know this is, I'm making up my own in-game lore of how things should be when they're not. They're actually set in stone. But I always thought it'd be interesting for when you kill a monster, you're more likely to gain certain materials. And then if you capture a monster, you're more likely to get a different set of materials. And I know that kind of exists in the Monster Hunter games, like, but it's not enough for it to be like, well, if you want the Agenath plate, you're gonna have to capture it. Because it has such a low carve rate. Whereas a much higher rate if you choose to capture. And vice versa, you could have like a really hard to get gem that a monster drops in high rank, but you can only get that by carving for it. Something like that, I don't know. Because otherwise, if the formula equals, well, don't capture or do capture, then that's all you do the entire game, is you don't worry about trying to kill the monster and carve it, or to actually just cut to the chase and capture it every time. Alright, we're gonna go to the Rotten Vale now. But first, I gotta cut this Legion up. I want its scales and its wings and whatever else it's gonna give me. Hide, that's always good. Get this. And then we're gonna do the thing that I love to do in this game, which is stupid. I know this is stupid, but I love to run to the edge of these corners, particularly in this and the forest that is this really far fall. And what I do is I try to wait for the timer to go almost to 0, and then as soon as it does, I jump to see if the game will interrupt me or not. And the answer is it usually doesn't. It just waits till you hit the ground, and then it cuts into the thing. But I always thought it'd be kind of nifty, like if the camera just sort of stayed there and you just fell, it stayed right where you were at. Take them all! Legiona! Stuff. Cutscene! You are truly impressive. Now our airship will make its descent to the lower vale. Just say the word when you're ready.
All right, the time has come. Let's head down to the bottom of the vale.
Sounds good. Can you tell this is a different recording? Because I got my bonuses again. What else? Yeah, we're gonna go down to the vale. Not really sure what more to say about it than we'll be fighting a different monster, and for some reason, after defeating the Legiona upstairs, the Vale downstairs has a new, what do you call that? A new campsite unlocked for me, even though I really didn't do anything other than fight a Legiona and a Radabon to get it open. Palomalu. Pululu, something like that. Anyways. I hate to be a downer, but I'm going to be a downer, so we are in the officially 2026 now, and I remember in the year 2000 thinking to myself, at some point in the next, we'll hit 2025, and that seems so far away. Top 2025, and I just like, wow, that feels like forever from now, and now 2025 is in the rear view mirror. So I know as you get older, time seems to speed up. So, like, for instance, 2000 to 2010 probably felt much longer to me than from 2010 to 2020 and, etc. Because you can get into a rhythm of things. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you get up, you go to work. And those days just sort of all start in your mind, blend together. Whereas, if you were to get up, I don't know, go hunting every day and every hunt is a little different or every fish is a little different, I imagine you'd have some different memories, though. I imagine certain fishing trips would probably bleed into the others, particularly if you're fishing in the same spot a lot. I got a lot of weapons I need to unlock. And if you think I have a lot of weapons to unlock, I got even more gems I need to unlock. Like necklace gems. So that'll be fun. Can't wait to do that. Of course, if the farther I get into the game, the easier it's going to be to collect some of the earlier materials. The 3 runs to get the Jiraiya equipment, the Gyarados equipment, or the Baroth equipment will go from, 15, 20-minute runs to 5-minute runs or 2-minute runs. Just because they have a set amount of HP, and as I upgrade my weapons, I'll be killing them faster. So. Alright, we're gonna go down to you. Are there any kitties here for me? No, kitties are still out. They're still collecting materials. EP Fox says, lol. Aha!
Now is the
Right,
time.
let's try this again. I suppose we'll find a safe place for you to depart. Resume your search for Sora Magdaros. Don't forget my request. You must think deeply. What is the Rotten Veil? I look forward to what you come up with. Well, off you go then. So, there's not... It sounds like she's asking you like a deep philosophical question. Like, what does the Rotten Veil mean to you? And really, the Rotten Veil is exactly what you think it is. It is essentially a wasteland or a graveyard for monsters.
Somewhere. I have a feeling I know what the Rotten Veil is.
Yeah, it's a place where things go to die and rot. That's why it's called the Rotten Veil. Not the birthing veil. But, things dying, returning to the earth. It's part of the circle of life, particularly in the animal kingdom. You're born, you eat, predators get you, you die. They eat your food. Eventually, they die. Sometimes you die of stupid shit like disease or fungus, because bacteria and viruses and that are also part of the the general world we live in, I suppose. I don't want to say are alive, because I've had many biology professors tell me that because a virus cannot reproduce, it is not a living thing. It exists as a separate from the tree of life, if you will, like a parasite. But at the same time, like a parasite, like a worm in your, like if you got ringworm or something, parasite uses your body to feed, but then it reproduces. Okay. Virus latches on to your cells and reproduces via that means, but Unlike unlike a living creature, it can't survive without a host. No. Essentially, it would eat the host alive until it died.